Jane Levy is one of the most amazing actresses of our generation. 'Cause you have to figure, with her acting talent, with her youthful good looks, with her undeniably strong on-screen presence, she could probably easily be a star in like one of those, young adult dystopian future adaptations, like, the Divergent games, whatever. But instead of that, she's getting her ass kicked by Fede Alvarez in horror movies. So, very definition of a trooper there, and you gotta have a lot of respect for that, for the horrible, horrible torture that she endures in these movies. This, of course, is kind of a reunion with her, because she starred previously in Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead film. And with this movie, Don't Breathe, I think the director, he really comes into his own as a unique voice in this genre. Because you do kind of have to feel bad for these types of directors, particularly young directors in horror, where it's like the second they show a little bit of talent, producers come up to them like, hey, we want you to remake this so-and-so classic here and there. And it's like, becomes this stigma of, I don't know, like as a viewer, you have this built-in resentment towards these reboots or remakes. And you have built-in resentment for those who make these movies because it's a remake or reboot of a classic that you love, so it's a completely normal thing. One exception being the Ghostbusters reboot. In that case, you are a sexist pig. That's the one exception. But even like the worst thing coming from that kind of mindset is there's always going to be those directors who are like, okay, yeah, I'll make this one stupid horror movie that I know is going to be a big hit. Then I'm going to do a real movie. I'm going to be like the next Zack Snyder and do Dawn of the Dead and then be the next big shot director and all that shit. So there's a stigma behind all that. So with Don't Breathe, we have an original film from Fede Alvarez, and you got to figure, the producers behind The Evil Dead, Sam Raimi, Robert Tappert, they got their boy. they know what they're doing. They're treating him right. They're letting him do his thing. This is, of course, released through Ghost House Pictures. And the movie's awesome. It is really, really good. And because it's a newer movie, it's still in theaters right now. It's just about at that point where it's coming in between theaters and home video release. So this will be a spoiler-free review. But basically, here's what you need to know about the movie. It's about these three criminals, Money, Rocky, and Judge Judy. Can't pick your nicknames. They have a fairly good setup for robberies. This is a movie set in Detroit. Of course, high crime, low job rates. People are desperate, so we see these desperate characters. The Judge Judy character, the younger kid, his father happens to work at a security company, so he has access to security codes for houses, and they can spot them and rob them. But the game isn't as fruitful as they would hope. Not a lot of money comes out of it, so they want one big score. So they're going to rob this house with this blind army veteran who has come into a large amount of money. They somewhat reasonably make the assumption that the money's more than likely in the house, and this is going to be their one big score. They can finally get away. They can finally go to California. That's where they want to go. So that's basically the plot of the movie. But guess what? Things go horribly wrong, and this blind man, played by Stephen Lang, fucking tortures these people and puts them through hell, and it's a very tense and oftentimes shocking picture, which I loved. It was great. And one of the challenges that this movie presents is in getting us to feel some kind of sympathy for these characters, because you see the opening scenes, you see them robbing these people's houses, even going further than that, like vandalizing the house for no reason, pissing on the floor, things like that. So it's kind of a hard thing to really care for these characters because they're thieves, they're criminals, things like that. But I think it gives a fair shake in the sense that this is something they're doing out of desperation, particularly with the Rocky character played by Jane Levy, who we see her home life a little bit, we see her demeanor, and we understand the desperation there. We understand the severe need to get away. So I thought they did a good job with that. And it doesn't really become this thing of, well, they're just really greedy assholes. So I like that, and really have to go through hell to get some kind of redemption and some kind of escape, and that's what they really show here in the most brutal way possible. And I think the way Alvarez presents his scenes is done in a very stylish way and a very tense way. Like, it doesn't like go too over the top, but there is some, fucked up shit in the movie, which is very shocking and very effective. Like, we have this Stephen Lang character who I think suitably doesn't speak too much. He has a few lines of dialogue, but they keep him as this almost force of nature type of presence that's bringing these kids through hell. And there's great scenes where they're in like the basement room, and he turns off the lights, and there's a great kind of suggestion through the filmmaking of what it would be like to be in the dark like that. Like, they show their pupils dilated, so we can still see the action on screen, but we understand through how they're presenting it they're completely in the dark. And it's just about avoiding this blind man. Don't breathe. So you got to sneak around him. And I don't know. I'm probably not the first person to bring this up, but it kind of reminds me of, like, you remember like the Arrested Development episode where like Julia Louis-Dreyfus was playing this blind lawyer, and Tobias, he's sneaking into her house and he's trying to be all stealthy and things like that. I don't know. It reminded me of that. This is like the horror version of that Arrested Development episode. And I think it's great. And I think it has a voice of its own in Alvarez, and it's a very scary movie. It has a lot of shocking moments, and it feels like it's coming from a real place. Like, you can kind of take a little bit of, real world kind of reflection on it. You can kind of see that this is taking place in the real world, and that this is a place in the world, Detroit, where there are these people who have this type of desperation. So there's some kind of, I think, social relevance there, but not too much, not too over the top. So I think they do a good job in blending that with the horrific moments of the film. This almost seems like something that Wes Craven would have made. And actually, there's some parts of this where it does actually kind of feel like People Under the Stairs a little bit, which I thought was nice. But of course, not a rip-off of this. And there are shocking revelations, and there are terrifying moments, and I thought it was great. So definitely check this one out. I thought Alvarez really came into his own with this. And it makes me want to revisit that Evil Dead remake as well, to kind of immerse myself in his style. So I'm definitely looking out for more from him. And yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. So thank you very much for watching. Have you seen Don't Breathe? Comment below. Let me know what you thought of the movie. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Visit Dare237.com. Until next time, I'll see you later, and stay scared.